early this morning when I woke up, I checked my Twitter mentions. And I got a screenshot from the Minnesota Timberwolves subreddit that blew my mind, and I want to talk about it. It reads, the Timberwolves are 10-0 in the last 10 games Julius Randle has played. Let's talk about it because I am very, very intrigued. If there's any unfortunate part about all of this, they're currently on a 5-game win streak, but because the Warriors are playing so well and because the Clippers are playing well right now after Kawhi Leonard's game winner in Sacramento, they haven't been able to make any room. They're still as a 7 seed and they still got the 8 seed on their tail. But I do believe there's some really cool, intriguing stuff that is happening in Minnesota that we need to talk about. Because the last time we talked about Minnesota on this channel was very early in the season. We're talking about a month into it where things were not great. Now, I do want to say we have talked about the Wolves on Small Ball with Kenny Beats on my podcast. You need to be tuned into that. But as far as this channel goes, the last time we talked about them, the title is The Timberwolves Chemistry is Destroyed. Of course, it's on the heels of the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. And this is the night after we had this whole thing versus the Raptors where, Rudy Gobert has a seal. Julius Randle looks him dead in his eyes and say, nope, you're not getting that ball. I also feel like I'm in a Flight Reacts Cash Nasty video because I'm reacted to something that I'm reacted to. It's a lot going on. But this is where we talked about the chemistry being bad. And then later in this game, they're down by 5 and the game is practically over and Julius Randle gave him a damn here pass. And then we got to the point where people were talking in the media. It was just all bad. Now things have changed. Again, they're 10-0 with Julius Randle over the last 10 games. So I woke up this morning, saw that tweet and I was like, I got to go see what's different. So let's talk about it. Now, there are a lot of Julius Randle critics in basketball, and for good reason, because when it's bad, it's really bad. We talk about the body language late in games if things aren't going his way, or we talk about him being a black hole. That was the conversation around Julius Randle as a player. We all recognize how talented he is and how good he could be because he made an All-NBA team not too long ago. But the question was his fit on this team when you think about the lack of spacing or changing the spacing that Karl-Anthony Towns provided with this. And I think that Julius Randle's mindset shift has really changed things. Now, for what it's worth, Julius Randle just came back from injury 5 games ago, and then they were on a 5-game win streak before this. And when he was asked about his time being injured, he mentioned that from the sideline, he was able to do this different perspective, go from a different perspective to think about what this team needs to succeed, and he's been molding his game around that. Then yesterday, he was asked about his play as of late. He said it's all about winning whatever the team needs. If this is the version that the team needs, then I want to do that every single night to help us get as many wins as possible, make the biggest run that we can make. I'm not really worried about scoring the ball. What? Julius Randle? This is the Julius Randle that we know? Oh man, this is crazy. I've had multiple years of scoring the ball at a high level. That's not really what I'm worried about. As far as the energy on our team and how we've been playing and the cohesionness and togetherness. Hey bro, y'all know reading quotes on this channel is hard. Basically what he's saying is that they're playing their best basketball. However I can help, I want to do that. And you feel that, bro, early into the season, as you got to remind yourself when this trade happened. It happened, a week before training camp, right? So, Chris Finch and the coaching staff have to figure out how do we put Julius Randle on this team and have him be successful while simultaneously keeping up with our success. It is not a one-to-one fit between what Cat was doing and what Julius Randle does. So it was very clunky. Now, the reason why this 10-0 streak with Julius Randle was a surprise to me is because the way I've been watching basketball this year is dramatically different than I was doing in previous years. Previous years, if there were 6 games on, I was trying my hardest to have 6 games on the monitor, when in reality, that's not a good way to learn and watch basketball because you're not really learning anything because you're jumping around from game to game. So I pick a couple games a night to focus on. And you think about the recent schedule, I did watch the ending of the 4th quarter of this Heat Timberwolves, but before that, it was the Hornets. I wasn't going back to rewatch that game. It was the 76ers. I wasn't going back to rewatch that game. So in this current stretch, I haven't really been tuned in as much as I probably should. So I was like, let me go see what they did against the Spurs. Now you look at me and say, Kenny, it's the Spurs. They're without Victor Wembanyama and so on and so forth, which is true, but I don't think that really negates any of the cool stuff that has been going on. Now, I do want to say it's obviously a collective effort. This is not just Julius Randle being Michael Jordan, right? It's a collective effort from Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, who I talked about on our podcast. If there's any silver lining to the injuries of Rudy Gobert or the injuries to Julius Randle, is that we saw a huge offensive production jump from Jaden McDaniels, where a lot of the times it felt like he was just a corner sitter that when the ball got swung to him, you got to shoot that corner three, and that was it. As of recently, he's been used as a pick and roll ball handler. He's been used as a screener. He's been putting the ball on the floor and getting to different spots. And I think that is one of the best developments when it comes to Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. One of the best things Julius Randle has done in this stretch is just play within the Florida offense. I can't tell you how many times I watched the Wolves earlier in the season where it felt like it was like, it's been a minute and a half, 2 minutes since Julius Randle has had a post touch. Let's go give him the ball and all watch while he tries to create something. I'm going to point out this possession early on because I do believe this kind of changed some of the game. We're talking about a 4-0 game right now. This is what you're going to see from Bismack Biyombo from the screen. He just drops just a little too high. I mean, a little bit too deep. Now, this is not drop coverage by any means, but like, there's a lot of space between what Anthony Edwards is trying to do and Bismack Biyombo and hits a big three. He's been the best pull-up shooter in all of basketball this season, 7-0. Now, this is where a moment where Ms. Johnson's like, Busy, we need you at that point way closer than that because we see what Anthony Edwards can do. And when Busy starts to play at the point of attack, that is where things shifted dramatically for this offense, and I'll show you. And it wasn't even just an Anthony Edwards thing. They just did it completely. Now, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Offensive rebound, Julius Randle. Look at that hustle. Now, look. You're going to see Rudy Gobert say, no, we need you out of there, Jaden McDaniels. You're going to set a little screen. It's not going to work to no backdoor cut for real. Nobody's really looking at that, but it's an empty corner. You see how high Busy is. Boom, Rudy Gobert on the short roll. I think Rudy Gobert's passing in the short roll has been really solid. It always is going to look clunky because I don't know why. But boom, right there in the little spot there for Jaden McDaniels after the clear out. That's great basketball, y'all. We are how many minutes into? 3 minutes into this game, right? This is the first time Julius Randle's getting a real touch. Now, he had a catch and shoot three early in this game. He missed this. But this is the first time he's been having an opportunity to do anything offensively. He gets the ball here, hits it to that corner. Jaden McDaniels eating up that space and dishing it off to Rudy Gobert. Like, come on, man. The hoops is elite right now. And this right here, I wish I was way better at knowing what the name of sets is and stuff like that. This is an action that they ran a ton specifically in this first half, and the Spurs basically didn't know what to do with it. Let's just play it out. Boom, fake that. This is the screenshot, bro. Anthony Edwards is so lethal as a shooter that they're sending two at him. You get Harrison Barnes trying to prevent the roll man, and that leaves Julius Randle wide open. And though Julius Randle is only shooting like 27% from three in this 10-game stretch, that's bottoms. Obviously, no disrespect to Rudy Gobert, but this is where things get really juiced up offensively when it is Naz Reid there because the game opens up so much more. Curl from Anthony Edwards and one on the rookie Stephon Castle, who earlier in this game, I ain't going to show you that, I guess, but he put Naz Reid in a cup like twice. I'm like, dang, that young fella with the shoulder. But let's talk about Randle. I keep forgetting. I'm jumping around just because I've been having, I watched this game and had so much fun. As you can see, Jaden McDaniels is up top pointing like Naz Reid got Chris Paul on him. You better get him that ball. Unfortunately, Julius Randle misses it. But he gets the retouch, and then we get a relocation. He draws a lot of attention. He jump passes. Y'all know I hate jump passes, but it leads to a three. Naz Reid. This is only a few possessions later. What you're going to notice what the Spurs were doing because they are so small. Look at this lineup that is on the court with them right now. Their tallest players like Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson. They are a really small team right now. And because they're so small and Julius Randle can be a wrecking ball, anytime he touched the ball near the paint, they sent another body. But he figured out, boom, I got Naz Reid. And I'm going to kick it out to Naz for another three right before half. Here's that same exact action we mentioned earlier, but they do it just a little bit different variation. Julius Randle gets it. Screen comes, double screen, up, Rudy Gobert with the hands. Look at that. We were just talking about how bad the chemistry was in November. And yeah, things have been looking good for Julius Randle and the squad. This is a conversation that we had on the podcast recently where we were saying that Julius Randle, if he can tap into this more than he taps into the other version of himself, it will just overall be more lucrative for him. He's one of the top names in this free agency class. And when not a lot of people having money, the question is what's going to happen with Julius Randle? Of course, you got the rumors of Kevin Durant with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know what that's going to look like. But it's like, how much money can Julius Randle make when there's not a lot of teams with cap? And his fit alongside a lot of teams feel a bit washy. But he's playing like this, his fit is pretty universal. Especially, I can't even show you all the defensive plays or the defensive effort that he's been given over this stretch So, like, I think this version of him is going to be more productive for the Timberwolves this season and more productive for him when he thinks about his long-term financial goals. And you can say, oh, again, Kenny, they played against the Hornets. They played against the 76ers, the Spurs in this span. Those teams are not very good. But I want to remind you earlier in the season when we talked about them having that lack of chemistry, they were not winning against bad teams. They were 4-4. Again, small sample size. We're talking about the first couple weeks of the season, but they were 4-4 against bad teams. And now since Christmas, they are 16-2 against those sub 500 teams, which like is a real recipe to a good team. Not letting the bad teams sneak up on you and just taking care of business. So I'm intrigued. I don't know what this means. Like the Wolves were a team that made the conference finals last year. I doubt that they would be able to do that again this year. But this is a team that earlier in the season, we kind of talked it up to be a season that will be lost. And now I'm just like looking at it like the recipe or the reward for winning the 2 seed could be this Minnesota Timberwolves team, dog. You see them in a 7-game series, which is not a cakewalk. And I think I personally got to get better at not just looking at things from that bigger picture. Oh, this team is a contender. This team is not a contender, so let's not talk about it. Sometimes the hoops is just good, and we need to talk about the hoops being good. And that's what the Wolves are going through right now.